So, hi guys, I'm Martin. People in the company usually call me MJ. And I'm a member of the experience design team in our engineering. So my talk is going to be a little less technical, I would say, rather just focusing on the outside and on the people who are using our product. So why did I choose this topic to talk about? Well, currently it's actually a hot topic in our team, and we're discussing this a lot, and we're in the upcoming quarters we're actually going to tackle proper metrics and how to actually evaluate what's the quality of our product. So I said this is a perfect challenge to talk about here at the meetup. To get started, firstly, why do we actually care about experience? Like, why do we want to measure it? To talk about our product, I think in terms of technology, we're quite ahead of our competition. As you have heard from our developers, we still have we have our own database where we can search really fast comparing to the GTS. But somehow, when we look at the data, we have a lot of searches, but not that many people actually book, or we do have a lot of bookings, but still comparing to how many searches we have. And we've been thinking about this quite a lot, and what's happening there, and trying to research and understand the people who are using our product, like why does this happen? Well, and we found out that in travel, and it's not such a huge finding, it's actually quite common, that in travel people, they go for the price. Like, if you have two sites and you have the same thing, you don't really care whether one is shiny visually. If the price is better on the other one, you are more tended to book with the cheaper one. So in travel industry, it's a lot about price. So what we are doing at Kiwi, obviously, we have a huge data science team who's trying to put up the margins and use machine learning there. And we're trying to lower the price as much as possible to be at least comparable with all the competition. However, we probably are not going to compete with the airlines itself, because we're not an airline. We still have to have some margin somewhere. But we can get to some state where we actually are comparable with the competition in terms of price. However, now we got to a point where we have two similar prices, and what's the differentiator now? Why would I book with Kiwi rather than with some other service? Well, actually, we believe that it's the service itself. You like the service of kiwi.com, and that's why you book rather. Even if it's a little bit more expensive, you rather book with Kiwi because of the service they provide and how easy it is to travel with us. So that's why you're more tended to buy with us. So in a service, designing a service is a lot about designing the actual experience. What do you experience when you travel with Kiwi, when you use the product? And so that's why we actually care about experience at kiwi.com a lot. Now I'm going to talk about the measurement of an experience. So we need to measure it to be able to optimize and to better it in the future. How can we actually measure something like this? You know, like in technology, for example, as developers may know, it's rather, comparing to an experience, it's rather easy. You see how fast it is, you see how much data you can store. In terms of business, it's quite straightforward. You see the revenue, you see the numbers, like if it's growing, then the business is good. So those are metrics which those are really easy to understand. However, with an experience, how can you measure something like an experience? Well, there's plenty of options. How can you actually measure this? However, there are qualitative data like emotions, feelings. How do people feel when they do this? However, I think this crowd is more interested into sort of the data approach. So I would more talk now about the quantitative measurements, about how do we actually use some analytics and stuff like that to measure experience. So first of all, as I mentioned, analytics, we need a lot of support from the lovely team we have, as Andre was already talking about. We need a lot of data from them. However, when it comes down to measuring experience, the number one thing which is absolutely crucial and important is setting up a good metric, having a metric which can really define what it is and where you want to go. And this is really important, and this is on us as user experience designers to understand what we are solving, what we are doing, and how to set up this metric properly to see how the users behave. So this is sort of an approach to the metric. How do we actually, and currently actually the biggest challenge for us. In this quarter and the next one, we're really focusing on these things and how to set up proper metrics for each product, each feature, and to be able to measure and optimize for the future. So we can see, this is an example from, we actually designed a couple of weeks ago a new login flow, a new login for kiwi.com. It's still not on production, however, we had to set up like how do we actually measure this, and the metric usually comes from the problem statement you have. So we have some problem, you solve it, and then you need to measure how good you solve it. So you can see, we can measure like the easy stuff, like okay, how many people actually sign in. However, it tells something, but it's really not helpful in terms of like, okay, so we know this amount of people signs in, what does it mean for us? It's not really telling us where should we move forward and where should we move next. So, and how to optimize. So you can see that it clearly gets better and more specific. And then in the awesome metric, you see how many percent of users who sign in per week and solve their task. That's actually the metric we're trying to solve with the login, because it's the problem you're solving with the login is not to people to log them in, but for people to actually do the self-service and to download boarding pass, and that's what actually it needs to cover. You can see that the last one is really like, it's not even one specific number, but it's more combinations of different trackings together, and what it actually is, it's like a story, and that's what we call a human behavior. This is like how we measure some behavior on our website or on our product. So why behavior? Well, why do we care about human behavior and how they behave when they are using or traveling with kiwi.com or using our product? Well, it's very much is connected with the uses of our product. So if you understand the human behavior, you understand how people use your product. And as a company, we can then, when we understand these uses, we can really tailor the functions towards them. I will quickly demonstrate this on sort of a very basic UX thingy. It's called the UX stack, which is sort of the layers of a user experience. And we're currently just talking about this part specifically here, about the uses, as I said. Sometimes we even, so in a very, in the like more straightforward way, you would probably in a larger companies understand your users, their needs, and then sort of design the uses where the monetization and company values and mission come towards. Sometimes we at kiwi.com, we had to go also back from the uses. However, this is something we measure, the uses, that's the behavior, as I was mentioning before. It is also where we connect our mission, which is making travel better, to somehow fit it with the use cases. And these uses, in the future, hopefully, if we measure it correctly, we're resolving new features. Where should we move next? Yeah, sorry, I just have to move my notes. And we can use the users, then we can learn from it, and then, as I said, move the future into the future. We can add new features based on this. Why would we do that? Why do we need to do all of this to know where to go next? Well, I would say this is sort of called innovation, where you learn, and then iterate, and based on the learnings from the previous one, you move forward and forward. And yeah, that's basically how we want, as kiwi.com, want to innovate. Why do we want to do this? Well, I would say that we're in a huge risk, or we are risking if we're not doing this, because if we're just trying stuff and putting it out and seeing whether it just earns money or not, then we're not really understanding why is it working, and if we can triple it, or where we can move it forward. It's just rather somehow surprisingly something works and something doesn't. So we're not learning, and then we cannot innovate properly. A good example, it's the end of the presentation, but a good example I can sort of remember is also from the travel industry, is Booking.com and Airbnb. So Booking.com, they basically don't do this. They don't do user experience that much. They rather have sort of these experiments where they A/B test everything, and it's a very short-term solution. And you could see in the past when Booking.com was basically a monopoly where they had all the bookings, and then Airbnb came along and they used this approach. They used like, okay, we are not going to do this. We're going to focus on understanding and learn from how do people travel and how do they want to travel, and they went this way, and they suddenly very quickly caught up to Booking. However, Booking survived because they have the history, they have the brand, and they have the marketing and everything. So that's why they survived. But if they didn't have all this and all the data from the past years, because they were the first, I think Airbnb would easily crush them with how they approached it. Because on the price level, it's sort of, sometimes it differs, but it's usually sort of similar. And then what you choose on the experience. So that's why Airbnb is so quickly caught up. So yeah, this is it. I think this is the way how we want to make kiwi.com the best travel product in the world. So thanks.